One of the things I enjoy most about riding motorcycles is discovering places that don't necessarily make the front page of every travel guide. Everyone knows the famous destinations, the places that show up on social media over and over again. But sometimes it's the quieter places that end up leaving the biggest impression. One place that comes to mind is the Wawa Lighthouse in Rizal. When you hear the word lighthouse, you immediately picture the ocean, big waves, ships, a rocky coastline, not green hills and mountain roads. That's what makes it so interesting. The lighthouse isn't a traditional lighthouse that guides ships through dangerous waters. Instead, it was built as one of the signature landmarks, Rizal. It's more of a viewing tower and a symbol for the area than an actual navigational lighthouse. And honestly, I think that's pretty cool. Not every landmark has to be hundreds of years old to become meaningful. Sometimes all it takes is creating a place where people want to stop, relax, and enjoy the view. One thing I really appreciate about the lighthouse is its simplicity. It's not the tallest structure you'll ever see. It's not covered in fancy decorations, but somehow it fits perfectly with the landscape around it. Standing there, surrounded by the open fields and mountain scenery, you almost forget you're only a couple of hours away from Metro Manila. And I think that's one of Tanai's biggest strengths. It gives you a chance to slow down. Whenever I ride through Rizal, I'm reminded why so many riders keep coming back here. Sure, there are twisty roads, beautiful mountain views, great places to grab breakfast, but there's also something about the atmosphere. The pace just feels different. People aren't rushing quite as much. The roads encourage you to enjoy the journey instead of simply getting somewhere. And places like the lighthouse fit that feeling perfectly. One thing I always tell people is that motorcycles have completely changed the way I travel. Back when I mostly drove a car, I was focused on getting from point A to point B as quickly as possible. The destination was all that mattered. But motorcycles changed that. Now I notice places I'd normally drive straight past. Small cafes, roadside fruit stands, quiet parks, viewing decks, hidden roads. The motorcycle somehow makes you more curious. And curiosity is probably the best travel guide you'll ever have. I think that's why landmarks like the lighthouse have become so popular with riders. It's not because they're massive tourist attractions. It's because they're perfect places to pause, take the helmet off, stretch your legs, grab a few pictures, maybe chat with another rider who happened to stop there too. Sometimes those little breaks become the best part of the ride. And if you're into photography or videography, this place is even better. From ground level, the lighthouse already looks great. But once you see it from the air, it tells a completely different story. That's one of my favorite things about flying a drone. The drone doesn't replace the experience on the ground. It adds another perspective. You begin to appreciate how the lighthouse sits within the landscape, the winding roads, the nearby river, the open fields, the surrounding mountains. Everything suddenly connects. It's almost like seeing a place for the first time all over again. I actually think drones have changed the way we appreciate locations like this. Years ago, most people only saw destinations from eye level. Now we can look straight down from hundreds of feet above and realize just how beautiful the landscape really is. It's amazing how different a familiar place can look from another angle. And the lighthouse is definitely one of those places. One thing I hope is that places like this continue to be looked after. As more people discover them, it's important that we also help preserve them. That means respecting the area, not leaving trash behind, following local rules, being considerate of other visitors. Because the more we take care of these places, the longer future riders will get to enjoy them too. I've always believed that you don't have to travel across the country to find somewhere worth visiting. Sometimes we're so busy dreaming about distant destinations that we overlook what's practically in our own backyard. There are probably dozens of interesting places within an hour or two of where you live that you've never visited. Not because they're difficult to reach, but simply because you've never thought about going. The lighthouse is a perfect example. It's close enough for a relaxed day ride, but different enough to make it feel like you've gone somewhere special. One thing I really enjoy about making these videos is encouraging people to explore more. Not because every place is going to change your life, but because every ride teaches you something. Maybe you'll discover a new favorite road. Maybe you'll find a cafe you'll keep coming back to. Maybe you'll meet another rider and make a new friend. Or maybe you'll simply spend a few hours away from work, away from your phone, and away from the stress of everyday life. Sometimes that's more valuable than reaching any destination. Another thing I appreciate about the lighthouse is that it's become one of those landmarks people immediately recognize. If someone posts a drone shot of it, you instantly know where they are. That's pretty impressive for a relatively modern structure. It has already become part of Tenay's identity. And I think that's something the local community can be proud of. Whenever I visit places like this, I also think about how travel has changed over the years. Years ago, people mostly relied on recommendations from friends. Now we discover places through YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. A single drone shot can inspire hundreds of people to visit somewhere they've never heard of before. That's one of the things I enjoy about creating content. If one of my videos inspires someone to get out, ride safely, and explore a beautiful part of the Philippines, then I think that's time well spent. Of course, the lighthouse isn't the only reason to visit Tane. The entire area is full of scenic roads, mountain views, parks, cafes, and local restaurants. The lighthouse just happens to be one stop that brings everything together. It's easy to access. It photographs beautifully. And it's a nice reminder that not every memorable destination has to be famous. At the end of the day, I think places like the Tane Wawa Lighthouse represent something bigger than just a photo opportunity. They remind us to slow down, to appreciate where we are, to take the longer road every now and then, to enjoy the ride instead of rushing through it. Because that's really what motorcycles are all about. Freedom, curiosity, adventure. Not necessarily measured by distance, but by the memories you create along the way. So if you ever find yourself riding through Tane, I definitely recommend making a quick stop at the Wawa Lighthouse. Take in the view, walk around for a bit, and if you have a drone, you'll get an entirely different perspective of the area. You might be surprised how a simple landmark can leave such a lasting impression.